Plenty of negative things to say about LeBron James. Without hesitation. I won't, but I could. Let me stick to basketball and tell you this. He's on a Mount Rushmore. He's one of the greatest players to have ever lived. I have him number 2 all time. But I appreciated and respected your take, Will Bond, on Get Up earlier when you talked about Kobe needing to be in that conversation, Kareem.
Don Nelson just dropped a bomb on LeBron's so-called legacy, and the basketball world hasn't stopped buzzing since. The Hall of Fame coach didn't hold back for a second. He bluntly labeled LeBron's career as manufactured and fueled by media hype, even casting doubt on whether he truly deserves to be in the greatest of all time conversation. That's not a casual jab, it's a full-force strike thrown in broad daylight. This wasn't some random hot take from a loudmouth chasing clicks. This was a basketball legend speaking with decades of credibility. Nelson isn't just anyone, he's a coach with over 1,300 wins, a man who's seen the league evolve from bruising paint battles to today's superstar-driven spectacle. He's faced dynasties, coached against icons, and now he's saying something that LeBron fans might find hard to swallow. What makes it even more explosive is how deliberate Nelson sounded. Calm, measured, and confident, he didn't come off emotional or bitter. When he called LeBron's legacy manufactured, he wasn't vague. He was pointing to team constructions, media narratives, and the way the league builds certain players into larger-than-life figures. It wasn't a snap judgment, it was a calculated observation from someone who's lived through the game's evolution. The conversation began as a laid-back reflection on basketball's past, reminiscing about classic matchups, the grind of older eras, and the raw competitiveness that once defined the sport. But the moment it turned to the modern GOAT debate, everything shifted. Nelson leaned in, straightforward and unflinching. LeBron's legacy, he said, is constructed. He didn't deny the talent, he's obviously gifted, Nelson acknowledged, but he questioned the framework of the career, the media shaping, and the constant amplification of every move. According to Nelson, it didn't feel like the organic path of greatness he had witnessed firsthand. And just like that, the basketball universe paused. Social media erupted. Fans fractured into factions. Some hailed Nelson for speaking truth, while others saw it as disrespecting a generational icon. Analysts scrambled to dissect his words. Debate shows queued up segments. This wasn't a passing remark, it was gasoline thrown on one of sports' most heated debates. And let's be clear, this isn't a jealous outsider or a commentator seeking attention. This is Don Nelson, a Hall of Fame coach with 1,335 wins, decades of experience, and nothing left to prove. When he questions the very foundation of LeBron's legacy, people listen. Whether you agree or not, the conversation has only just begun.
And 83 more games, okay? He has played 7 more years than Michael Jordan. We want to talk about 30 points, all right? Like the 30-point record. How about this 30-point record, Swagoo? Did you know that Michael Jordan averaged 30 in his career?
Yep, I did.
Did you know that Michael Jordan went 7 straight years averaging over 30? Did you know that? I mean, it's just unbelievable to me. Listen, and then I bring...
A man who has been around the NBA since the 1960s, coaching against Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan in their primes, is not just another voice in the crowd. When someone with that pedigree speaks on basketball greatness, you don't scroll past, you sit up and listen. Decades of locker rooms, playoff battles, and front row seats to history give weight to every word. The timing makes this even more striking. It's early 2025. LeBron James is still active, still stacking stats, still shaping his story with polished interviews and calculated messaging. For more than 20 years, he has carefully managed his public image, controlled narratives, and presented himself as the ultimate professional. Then Don Nelson steps in and drops one word that cracks that image: manufactured. That is not a minor jab, it is a direct challenge to the foundation of LeBron's carefully curated legacy. The real question isn't whether Nelson said it, he did. The real question is whether anyone can shut it down with hard facts, without relying on emotion. This debate isn't about talent, it's about context, about how greatness is built and who gets to define it. Nelson broke the claim into 3 major points, each sharper than the last. First, the super team era. He didn't mince words. LeBron didn't just join strong teams, he shaped them. From Miami, where he paired with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, to Cleveland, where assets were added to complement his return, to Los Angeles, where the Lakers built around Anthony Davis, every move looked calculated. In Nelson's eyes, this isn't simply competition, it's strategic positioning. Unlike Michael Jordan, who endured years of struggle with imperfect rosters, LeBron has often had the leverage to influence who plays beside him, and that matters. The second point, media narrative control. Nelson argued that LeBron's career has been framed through a lens that amplifies brilliance. Every playoff run is historic. Every stat becomes monumental. Losses, he contends, are often softened by context. The roster wasn't strong enough, the opponent historically stacked, while Jordan's losses were counted plainly and harshly. This isn't just a casual observation, it's a critique of how modern narratives can protect and polish a legacy. The third point, choosing the path of least resistance. Nelson clarified that he respects LeBron's intelligence and skill, but he sees a distinction between being smart and avoiding the toughest challenges. LeBron often steps into situations with strong foundations in place, while Jordan endured physical, grueling playoff battles, stayed with his team through hardship, and built his legacy step by step. Nelson calls this the old-school way versus the modern path, structured, amplified, and carefully managed. And why does this matter? Because Don Nelson isn't just another commentator. With 1,335 career wins, 5-time Coach of the Year honors, and Hall of Fame recognition, he has reshaped the game itself. Small ball, positionless basketball, concepts that dominate today, were in Nelson's playbook decades before they were fashionable. He has lived through every era, faced every dynasty, and molded overlooked players into stars. When he talks about the difference between earned greatness and manufactured greatness, he speaks from first-hand experience, not speculation or social media hype. He is comparing eras he personally lived through, and that perspective gives his critique unmatched weight.
Fans are the best, and today we're going to be talking about if it's the beginning of the end of the LeBron James GOAT narrative. But first, before we get into it, I want to welcome back the Roosters from last week first. But before that, or after that, we got AOH here. How are you doing today, sir?
Good morning. Hey, shout out to everyone across the entire world.
Don Nelson laid it out clearly. I've seen players dominate through sheer will, he said. I've seen guys take average rosters to the finals. I've seen legends built through sacrifice and perseverance. And I've also seen players curate their image, manipulate situations, and have their narratives protected by media machines. The implication was unmistakable. In his eyes, LeBron James fits more into that second category. What makes this critique hit so hard is the tone. Nelson isn't yelling. He isn't throwing insults. He is calm, measured, almost clinical, dissecting a legacy piece by piece. You can ignore hot take artists. You can scroll past random fans online. But a Hall of Fame coach calmly breaking down greatness? That hits different. And here's what makes it even wilder. Nelson anticipated the pushback and addressed it head-on. Defense number 1, LeBron went to 10 finals, more than Jordan. Nelson's response was sharp. Reaching the finals in a weaker Eastern Conference is not the same as finishing the job. Jordan went 6 times and won 6. LeBron has been to 10 and lost 6. Are we celebrating participation or championships? Nelson asked. He added context. The Celtics' big three were aging, the Pacers competitive but not dominant, and the Raptors struggled under playoff pressure. The East simply wasn't stacked like the West. Context, not disrespect. Defense number 2, LeBron carried weaker teams to the finals. Nelson challenged this framing. Was it carrying, or benefiting from conference dynamics? When LeBron ran into elite championship squads, he often came up short. Case in point, 2007. Cleveland reached the finals, but San Antonio swept them. Nelson framed it as a young star learning tough lessons rather than delivering an untouchable all-time run. Defense number 3, LeBron's all-around game is superior to Jordan's. Nelson bristled at this. Greatness isn't about filling every stat column. It's about dominance in the moments that define eras, closing games, shifting pressure, commanding the floor. LeBron may be better all around, but basketball isn't about looking complete on paper. Jordan chased control of the game and the final result. End of story. Nelson went deeper. LeBron's versatility and stat padding can feed a broader image strategy. Controlling the numbers helps control the narrative. But does that always match the mindset of a pure closer? In clutch moments, Nelson drew a sharp distinction. LeBron sometimes makes the smart play instead of taking the final shot himself. Jordan? He would have taken it, whatever came next. A closer versus a manager of outcomes, a philosophical divide on what defines greatness. Defense number 4, the game is harder now, some argue. Nelson laughed. He played in the 80s and 90s, absorbing contact that would draw instant fouls today. Driving into the paint meant physical punishment night after night. Stars got hit and kept going. Every era has its battles. Every era demands something different. Nelson's critique carries weight because it's rooted in experience, not highlight reels or social media debates. He coached legends, watched dynasties rise and fall, and lived through it all on the sidelines. And he insists this isn't just LeBron versus Jordan, it's about how modern legacies are built. Wins and losses are no longer the only measure. Today, narrative management, media cycles, social platforms, timed interviews, and branding shape greatness as much as performance. LeBron's business ventures, media presence, and production partnerships? All part of the arena. Today's superstars compete on the court and in the narrative space. Controlling the story doesn't automatically equal being the greatest player ever, Nelson notes, but it shapes perception, and perception matters. Back when Jordan played, the media scrutinized every loss. There was no narrative safety net, only one way to silence the critics: win. And Jordan did. Nelson points out that LeBron rarely faces that same raw, unforgiving pressure because he stays ahead of the story. Take 2016, down 3-1 against the 73-win Golden State Warriors, the greatest comeback in NBA history. Iconic, legendary, untouchable. But Golden State had injuries and suspensions. Nelson isn't erasing the achievement, he's asking, if Jordan faced the same scenario, would the coverage have been as soft? LeBron's moment was historic from day one, a manufactured legacy in motion, in Nelson's view. Then comes the line that stops you: we are not judging LeBron by the same standards we judged previous greats. We lowered the bar and then congratulated him for clearing it. That statement shakes the GOAT debate. If greatness is measured by shifting criteria, what are we truly measuring? Championships, longevity, stats, branding, or narrative control? As of early 2025, LeBron and his camp have stayed silent. No interviews, no posts, no responses. In a media-driven world, silence speaks volumes. And it's working. The debate expands organically. Analysts, fans, commentators, everyone is weighing in. Some dismiss Nelson as old school, but with 1,335 wins, decades in the league, and first-hand experience across eras, that argument doesn't stick. Nelson didn't invent stats. He didn't rewrite finals records. He offered a perspective rooted in experience, challenging the polished version of greatness many accept. The basketball world is split. Some applaud him for voicing what they quietly believed. Others defend LeBron, arguing that modern player empowerment is part of greatness. Long-term, what does this mean for LeBron's legacy? It's too early to say, but something has shifted. More fans are questioning team moves, analyzing media influence, and asking whether branding and basketball are inseparable. 20 years from now, how will this era be remembered? Will LeBron be crowned the GOAT, or remembered as the most strategically marketed superstar of his time? Will the focus be championships or the paths taken to achieve them? Nelson planted a seed of doubt, and once doubt enters a legacy debate, it doesn't vanish easily. So the question echoes through basketball circles: is Don Nelson right, or is this just an old-school